welcome to One Cardinal, One Cub, and One Beer. And as you can see, Vince is really excited because a lot of stuff are happening in Cub land. Ah! That's how animated I can get when I'm excited. Yes, very excited. JJ, are you excited for me?
You know what? I am. When you're happy, I'm happy, and I'm glad you're happy.
Yeah. Don't worry. Be happy. Be happy. Yeah. So anyway, housekeeping. Those of you who are watching us on Facebook, remember to wait a minute. Watching us on Facebook. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe to our channel. That way you can have our information as soon as it drops. Also, remember to like us on Facebook. You can contact us through One Cardinal or One Card, One Cup, One Beer at gmail.com. You can support our efforts through Patreon. You just go to patreon.com, search for One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you can support our efforts, which is greatly appreciated. If you want to be a guest on our show, if you want to be on a panel, if you have an interesting baseball story or anecdote, something that's baseball related, if you are just so good looking, you've got to get that face out there. Let us know. We love having our people on the show. JJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Winter's going on. We're getting close to Christmas. Had a birthday last week. We had a comedy show in Festus, Missouri, and I'm going to tell you something. Vince killed, rocked the house. A lot of the viewers and listeners to the podcast were there. Ray Hartman, Tony Pruno was there. Shannon was there. Had a great time. So
Corby?
the holidays have been going fast, and it's been a good time.
Yeah, Corby was there.
Yeah, Corby was there. That's right, Corby.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to think of all the people. I can't remember everybody, but there was
who watched the show and been guests on the show, and it was greatly appreciated. I it was funny because I had to get something from JJ, and we really don't see each other that often. So we saw each other at the show, and JJ said, "I got some cards for you, and I got a beer for you." And with everything going on, because I had my daughter and some of her friends, my wife there. We had other friends there, some comics that I hadn't seen for a while, and all the stuff going on. I forgot to get the baseball cards. I forgot to get the beer, and I forgot to meet your wife, Faith. So,
oh,
um,
it was crazy.
Yeah, yesterday, JJ said I can meet you at Burger King in Peebly, and I can get you the cards and the beer. And so we met there, and I I wear house shoes as much as I can. I don't like wearing shoes. I have a little neuropathy due to the diabetes, and house shoes just work for me. So JJ pulls up, and I'm in sweats and house shoes, and I look like someone who's ready for bed. And JJ's like, "You want to go inside and have a burger?" No.
I'm from Arkansas. People don't even wear shoes down there half the time, so that was nothing new to me.
Well, I am getting the other day we went to we did an order for Subway online, and I'm already in my pajama pants and house shoes. Heck with it. I'm just walking in there like this. Everybody else in Jefferson County lives like this. I can do it too. So
Why not?
so
Heck yeah.
anyway, but thank you for the Dan Relich put on the show, friend of the show.
Dan Relich. Oh, big part of it. Yeah, he listens and
Thank
he's
you.
one of our sponsors.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for inviting me. I had a blast. I had not done a set for I think about 8 months. It'd been a while since I've done a set. I did a roast, but I've taken some steps back from comedy, and for the first time in years, I actually had to practice my set because the way it usually goes, you memorize your set and then you add things, take things out, you put new stuff in. And I've never taken notes onto a stage, even at open mics. I don't take notes. I have to memorize something. Um, so I was really nervous about this set. I practiced it throughout the day. I got there, and my goal wasn't to win, although that would have been nice. And Akhtab Mohammed won, and he was very good. My goal was to get through the set and not look completely bad. And there was a little bit of rest there, a little bit of timing was off,
I
but for
couldn't
the most
tell.
part, I was super stoked, excited that it went good. Great audience, and Dan puts on a great show, and JJ helps him out. So next time they have a one of these contests, I think you're having one in February, is it?
February 22nd
Yeah,
at Infestus.
in Festus, American Legion. Go. It's a fantastic time. Had a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Oh, JJ, it's that time of the month.
Uh-oh.
Beer corner.
Beer corner time already. Here we are.
I got this beer from JJ. This is Sprecher, and it is Abbey Triple Belgian Style Ale. Where is this brewed?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. And you're going to see that that's going to be a theme today because our guest towards the end of the show is someone who went through the 82 World Series in Milwaukee as a Brewers fan, where JJ went as a Cardinals fan. So it's kind of neat. But anyway, JJ picked this beer up for me, 8 years ago. And
Yeah.
there's no born on date or
There's
anything.
no date.
Do they still do born on dates? That used to be one of the things, But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about this drink I'm going to have here. Uh, it was founded by a guy named Randy Sprecher, and this is the oldest craft brewery in Milwaukee. And Randy Sprecher, he was sent to work for a general. He was in the service in Augsburg, Germany, and that's where he kind of fell in love with this German beer. And in 1972, he decided to take his homebrew hobby that he learned in Germany. He decided to take it to the next level, and he applied to study fermentation science at UC Davis. Then he perplexed the state of California by applying to establish a microbrewery, a concept that the state did not understand at the time because this is the 70s. Okay. Down but not out, Randy secured a post as supervisor of brewing operation at Pabst Milwaukee Brewery. He packed up everything he owned into a VW van and moved to Milwaukee. Now, in the 60s, what you do is you'd pack up everybody in your VW van, you go out to California, you become a hippie. And, he did it the other way. Came to
Sure
be a
did.
cheesehead. So he was working for Pabst, and in 1984 he left Pabst and he established a Sprecher Brewing Company that has all kinds of different beers. They also do soft drinks. I think they're kind of famous for their root beer, from what I was reading online.
Fantastic root beer.
So this is their Belgian style ale. I have my frosted mug, world's greatest grandpa mug. Um,
All the ingredients is grown in Wisconsin, and their sodas, which they have like 15 flavors, does not use sugar. It uses honey. And so it's got a unique taste to it, and the root beer is fantastic. So me and Brody took a tour, and this was the best-selling beer, and I said, I'm picking up one for Vince.
well, let's see what we have.
All right.
Let's see what the world's greatest grandpa
Ah,
thinks
oh
of
yeah.
this. 3.5.
Three and a
Pretty good.
half. That's
Pretty good.
solid right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good. I will finish it. You, if they're usually if they're under three, I don't finish them. So but anyway, thank
Very
you,
good.
JJ, for opening
No
my eyes to
problem.
Sprecher, Abbey Triple, and I will enjoy this while we speak. So, JJ, what's going on in baseball?
Well, I will get this out of the way. I love our little hobby shop down there in Caledonia, a Boys Dreams hobby shop. I went down there, and Ray Langford of the Cardinals was there. And I want to tell you
Great.
something. I've met a lot of wrestlers. You can tell from Arkansas, I say wrestling. A lot of wrestlers, a lot of sports people, and Ray Langford was probably one of the three. I put him up there with Brooks Robinson, Al Kaline, and then Ray Langford. I always say, oh, thank you for coming all the way down here to Caledonia. And he was like, no, no, thank you for coming out, man. I appreciate it. Took pictures, signed stuff, the nicest guy. I'm not going to show everything, but I got a bunch of cards signed, but I got his rookie card, which I love that card of Ray Lankford. We talked about him running into the walls at St. Louis. And then I got this card because I just love it. It's him sitting in front of his locker. It's a very young Ray Lankford there. And I think underrated. He was the best player on the team in the 90s, I believe. And then I fell in love with this picture down there at that sports shop. They print up a bunch of pictures, and there's some fantastic pictures, but I love this one of Ray. It's a black and white picture, but Lankford's in color, and he
Oh,
signed it. It's Mike Piazza catching right there. So anyway, got that signed, had a blast, and I don't want to announce anything. They're going to take January off, but February, there's a good chance there's going to be a Cardinal come down there. And as soon as I found out for sure, I'll let everybody know.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I loved Ray Langford. He was a great ambassador for the city of St. Louis in baseball,
Yes,
and
sir.
you saw him laughing a lot on the bench. He was just a nice guy. And I remember when McGuire got here, he said that Ray Langford was the best protection he ever had in the lineup. So
Wow, I did not know that. That's quite a compliment coming from the Oakland A's, man.
yeah. Oh, did you hear that Freddie Freeman's Game One walk-off grand slam ball was auctioned?
I did hear that, uh, and I have it somewhere in my notes. It went for a lot more money than I would be willing to pay for it, but God loved the fan who bought it and the team who sold or whoever sold it.
1.56 million.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a game one home run. I know it's cool, but no, I don't think it's 1.5 million cool.
No. I'd give $20. $20, it's yours if you want to sell it to me.
If it was a player that was special to me,
Yeah.
let's say, oh, say hits a great grand slam, and I'd go up to about 500. That's all I would do, though. 1.56 million. JJ,
Yeah.
we got players making 700 million. We got fans paying 1.56 million. When am I going to see any of this money?
I don't know. Our podcast is gaining momentum. Hey, give it a year. We'll get that 1.5.
Okay. Oh, well, one of my favorite names of a baseball player, Jake Berger.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
he is traded to the Rangers, and Jake Berger is probably one of the top unknown names in baseball. He's been good for a few years. Played with the White Sox, and last year he played with the Marlins. He had 29 dingers, and he's traded to the Rangers, and he's going to play third base.
Ooh,
We're
I
gonna
didn't
have
know that part.
Berger at third base, um, uh, shortstop, Seager at short, Simeon at second. Jeez,
Gosh.
man,
Well, I
that's
thought they had that Josh. His last name's Jung. I thought they had that. I think it said Young, but I thought he was a third baseman, or is he going to go to DH or something?
see. I read the Berger's going there to play third base.
Okay.
Um, so that could be wrong. Maybe they're going to put him on first. But I when I read the report, it was like he's going to had the Rangers have acquired a new third baseman. So
Okay. Well,
so
with DHs and these guys play multiple positions, it's good to have options, flexibility in your lineup and everything. So I tell you what, I don't know what the Marlins are doing. That guy did nothing but was a good player for them, and now he's on this team with the Rangers. We might see them back next year. With the Astros starting to maybe fade, and here they've got him in that lineup, and that's a good lineup, man. I don't know what the Marlins are doing. It looks like as soon as they start building something, they take it apart or send players here and there. So good for the Rangers, but Marlins, I don't know what to think about that.
I know he was injured last year, but when I saw Jesus Luzardo pitch against us when he came back, he looked really good. And now there's all kinds of reports linking that the Cubs are in negotiation with the Marlins for Jesus Luzardo. Thinking, why would they get rid of him? He
I
certainly's
have
got to have
no
another
clue.
year
I'd love
left
us
on
the
the
Cardinals to get him, but I don't see us, giving them. I don't know, given what they want. Or, I'm not sure. We do a lot of dealing with the Marlins, though. Seems like you can take him for a handful of magic beans or something like that.
contract. Shane Bieber, he signed. He was a free agent, but he went ahead and signed with the Guardians again. Injured last year. Yeah, pitched 2 or 3 games. I mean, it was just a wash, but they bring him back for a year. Um, and Cleveland had a good team without him. If he bounces back to be the pitcher he has been, Cleveland is just going to continue to be a force in that Central Division. I love the American League Central, how the Royals, they're amping up. The um, Guardians are, I mean, they're having to pull back because they're having all the financial issues through the TV but they're still like we're trying to hang on to what we've got to be competitive. The Tigers came out of nowhere last year, and to be a playoff team. And the Twins had a down year, but the Twins are still a formidable team. And the White Sox, I mean, they're probably going to win 51 games this year. I mean, they're really solid.
They're gonna get hot.
Oh, speaking of the White Sox, Garrett Crochet has went to the Red Sox for Kyle Teal and others. 3 or 4 others, but Kyle Teal is the one that is notable. He is the top prospect in the Boston organization. He's a catcher. And if you are going to build a team, the best place to start, in my mind, is to have a catcher. So I that looked good. Garrett Crochet was connected to the Cubs a few times. I didn't see it happening because I really don't think Jerry Reinsdorf likes dealing with the Cubs. He got us once in the Quintana deal, and I think he's a little, I don't want to do that with them again. Um, and Garrett Crochet, when he was trade rumors were talked about last year, he said, "Well, if you trade me, you better extend me." I just
Yes.
don't know if I like his attitude. And coming from that team where there was a lot of morale issues, I don't know, maybe he was poisoned or something, but that's just not a good thing to say. If you trade me, you better extend me. Um, Holy cow, you've had one good year in your career, you know.
Exactly.
Um,
And I don't think the White Sox, we're going to be going anywhere soon. I could be wrong, but the odds are they're not. And I don't know if they're going to be able to sign the guy. I don't want to, that guy we had, that White Sox fan we had on, I didn't want to say anything even halfway because he looked like he was just on his last leg. So I always try to pump up the White Sox a little bit. But I think, build for the future. They probably weren't going to be able to resign him. And if they did, I don't know. He probably wants to go where he can have a little more success, chance at success. So good. And moving him now, they probably got more now than they would have if they waited at the end of the year, and he could get hurt. You never know. So good for the
yeah,
White Sox and good for him. And again, I knew he said something. I forgot what it was that I was like, I don't know about this guy. And that you're right. He wanted to be extended.
yeah. So I mean, it could have been just the environment he was in, and he'll be fine. I don't know. It's just not a good look when that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest trade of the week that did not involve the Cubs. Um, Devin Williams, closer for the Brewers, goes to the Yankees for Nestor Cortez and Caleb Durbin. I think this is a trade that helps both teams.
I
It's
did
going to
too.
ensure that um, they're going to have another starting arm in Milwaukee, and they're putting together a really good staff. Woodruff, um, who's the other guy? Woodruff's
Oh,
coming back.
Peralta, they got that. Peralta's the
Peralta
ace.
and Nestor Cortez.
DL Hall, and there was a guy that was hurt last year, but they signed him, and he's going to come back and pitch this year too. Maybe it was Woodruff was the hurt guy, but
Yeah,
you know, their staff, I think, is going to be better than it was last year, to be honest with you. And Devin Williams missed most of last year, injured. He came on at the end, and he did pretty well, but like he usually does. But I'm with you. I think that's a good trade for the Brewers, and I admire how they get the most value out of their players. I really admire that about
yeah. This is one of those trades that just makes perfect sense for both teams. So I don't look and say, "Boy, they got screwed," or "Boy, that team got screwed." That works for both teams, and that's what a good trade is. You
it.
have a need,
Exactly.
another team has a need. You have an excess somewhere, they have an excess somewhere. You trade the excesses for each other. You fill each other's holes. Life is good.
Yeah.
So uh, winter meetings are over. There was a lot of action, particularly at the beginning that Max and I talked about last week. Um, you have any other uh, things to add to the opening chat?
Rumors. That's just it with the Cardinals and a lot of other teams. Just rumors and possibilities. And every day I hear another day where Arenado might go here. I've heard Flaherty's name popping up here and there. Um, and there's been some good moves. And I think the groundwork's been laid for a lot of moves. And don't give up. If not something hasn't happened yet, don't give up. I remember there was one Christmas Eve where the Cardinals got Ron Gant and I think Andy Bennis on a Christmas Eve. They got made two deals right on Christmas Eve and got both of those guys. And I was like, hey, Merry Christmas. So you never know. And here lately with these agents, sometimes they wait until spring training started to sign. So it's going to be fun these next few weeks. All the award season's over, and guys are going to want to be on a roster somewhere if they're free agents, and teams are going to be looking for the best value they can get for somebody. And once some of these top free agents start signing, like Bergman, and we got Soto signed now, it's almost like a domino effect. It'll just really start picking up then.
Well, what's going on in Cardinal news?
Ooh, Cardinal news. Cardinal news. Well, rumors. That's basically it.
It's Fleetwood Mac
Let's
Day.
see. I had uh you know, you guys, I want last week I had that dental surgery and I was watching the podcast. I didn't want to talk about things y'all talked about and everything, but I was very proud of that Dick Allen and Dave Parker got in, and I was wondering, Dick Allen, I wonder what uniform, because I love the plaque. Usually a player or the league picks a team for the player. Now Dick Allen, he only played briefly for the Cardinals, but I don't know if he's going to go on as a Philly or a White Sox. I don't know, but it'd be fun to find out how they decide what team he'll represent, or will he just go in at a blank hat and have his whole career on his plaque? I don't know. What do you think about that? Which team?
I think he'll go in as a Philly because he started his career in Philadelphia and spent about the first 10 years there. And then he went to St. Louis, Los Angeles, and then he went to the White Sox and spent a couple years there, won his MVP with the White Sox. And then a lot of people don't remember, he went and finished his career in Philadelphia as a fourth outfielder. So I think he'd go in as a Philly, and yeah, it's like I told Max last. I don't get the uh, posthumously putting in players. They didn't get any better. It, it to me it is, I don't know. It's like
Vince, what do you think about this? Now they have these new statistics. Before it was really they looked at your baseball card.
yeah.
Well, now they have defensive metrics. How much? I mean, they can get things down to the minutia of your career. I don't even understand some of these statistics. WAR, I just nod and shake my head. Okay, that anything over 60 sounds like a Hall of Famer to me. So maybe they can go back and look at this. And two, you could have been stacked up against I feel sorry for some of the guys this year because CC Sabathia and Ichiro. is going to be on the ballot. And if you're Billy Wagner, but the way I understand it, each guy can vote for 10 players. So if Wagner's going to make it, this will be the year, and they shouldn't really affect him, some of these players. So I don't know. But with the metrics now, maybe they can look at things differently. And I like that some of these committees have players that played with some of these guys, and, they have a lot of say so. Used to, it just was the writers, and some of them had an axe to grind, and they would never vote for a player they didn't get along with. I don't
And
believe so.
I think that was the case with Dick Allen,
I do too. There's a
because
there's a MLB interview with him and Bob Costas. It's about an hour long, and I always thought of Dick Allen, just looking at his pictures, is just this fierce, hard nosed guy, and he was a sweetheart. And he talked about his time coming up and the minors, and how he faced a lot of racism and in the big leagues as well. Because we think of 1947 as when Jackie Robinson came into the league, and Dick Allen came in much later, but it still was hard to break into some areas, and some people just don't let some things go. And but he sort of it seemed like he was at ease with himself, and it was a great interview, and Bob Costas did a great job talking to him.
yeah, I'm glad for his family. I just yeah, I saw I went through this with Ron Sant. I didn't go through it with Ron. Yeah, me and Ron we talk about it all the time. But as a Cub fan,
Right.
you know, Ron Sant, all the home runs, all the Gold Gloves, um, playing on some great Cub teams that didn't make the playoffs. But he was the type of player you'd think was going to be a no-brainer. And, he was the National League version of Brooks Robinson. And Brooks played in all those postseasons, all those World Series, and excelled in the World Series. And, that helped him. Santo didn't have that opportunity. But I'm also happy for Dave Parker. I thought he was going to be iffy. And I actually thought Tommy John had a better chance of getting in, uh, not just for his pitching, but, because he invented surgery or something like that, or
I,
underwear. I don't remember. He's done a lot of stuff. But yeah, I kind of expected Tommy John to go in, but I'm happy with Dave Parker.
oh,
I just wish he wouldn't have got down the rabbit hole with drugs there in the late 70s, early 80s. Um, because if he would have had his normal Parker years, he would have been a first ballot Hall of Famer.
there's so many players that had 5, 6 incredible years and injuries, or family life or tragedies or whatever. I know Mickey Mantle, if he hadn't slid and messed up his knee, could you imagine? We'd be talking, he'd be like Aaron and Ruth and those guys, So, although he is one of the all-time greatest, but he was playing it, he did most of that on a bad knee. So you just never know what's going to sidetrack you. Life's, you know, sometimes you just get one great year or one good year, or just and at bat the big leagues. That's all you get. So cherish it because it could be gone tomorrow.
Joe
Uh
Charbonneau, Mark
that one
Dandridge,
Mark Friedrich, yeah. Oh
uh,
my gosh.
Ross Grimsley. I mean, the history of baseball is just littered with people who came on like gangbusters in them because of injuries, or whatever. They just, you know, Vida Blue. Um, if he would have got messed up into drugs, um, he was one of the top pitchers of the 70s, and he was considered better than Hunter. He was considered same level as Ryan, Palmer, and that
Yeah.
going
That's
into
why I
the
love doing this. We get to bring up these players like J.R. Richard. A lot of people may not even remember
man,
J.R. Richard. My gosh, I would have feared for my life in the batter's box against J.R. Richard. He just unleashed
6 foot
havoc.
8, just menacing looking, and he threw 100, and he was wild enough to scare the crap out of anybody.
Just wild enough. Yes.
And if he had a stroke, I guess he was in his late 20s when he had a stroke and never pitched in the big leagues again. Tried to rehab and come back, but couldn't. But J.R. Richard may have been the scariest pitcher I ever watched. Um, and just the size of him on the mound and the ball comes out that fast. Randy Johnson was taller, but Randy Johnson, he was kind of a beanpole. Uh, J.R. Richard wasn't. And
No, you're not running out there.
I remember listening to Cardinal games when they'd play the Astros, and Jack Buck never called him J.R. Richard. And on the mound is James Rodney Richard. Always called him James Rodney. That's how I remembered his name. Jack Buck saying James Rodney.
Very cool. Jack was so good. Well, in other Cardinal news, you guys touched on this last week, but I just wanted to talk about that. The draft lottery. Last year we were horrible, or 2 years ago we were horrible, and normally we probably would have got the third or fourth pick. Well, they did the draft lottery and we fell to number 8, and we're like, but we got JJ Reinhold, which I'm very happy with. Weird things happen, but this year we were more in the middle, and we get the number 5 pick. And I've been looking at some of the top prospects coming up, and there's 3 really good pitchers in the top 5 right there. And who can't use some pitching? So thank you, whoever is in charge of the draft lottery, and we're very happy to have the 5th pick this year. And I hope it, but that being said, sometimes it doesn't work out. So at least we have a shot at a very good player, and I'm excited when that comes about. Uh, the winter warm up, and Cardinal fans and us memorabilia collectors, it's a big time of the year. And in January, mid-January, that's coming up, and they announced the dates, and it's going to be January 18th through the 20th at Busch Stadium and Paul Park Village. And for you people out of town, there's a little place right across the stadium where they have their Hall of Fame and restaurants and things like that. And it's a really neat place. A lot of teams now have something similar in their ballpark area. So that's coming up, and that's something to look forward to. And that gets us to about a month away from spring training, which I can't believe we're already talking about spring training, but that's kind of exciting. The Cardinals have their schedule out with all the promotions, a lot of bobbleheads. As everybody knows, I love the bobbleheads, and there's a lot of good ones coming up this year. And Mason Wynn, I know, is one of the players that has a bobblehead this year. That's cool. He's going to get honored with a bobblehead. I know if I was a player and they had a bobblehead of me, I'd sure want to get that for my collection. So anyway, Vince, that's basically it. Just a lot of rumors about players, and I've heard stuff about Helsley and Arenado and Sonny Gray, and we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen. It's going to be coming up soon. See what happens here.
Yeah, throughout my life, I've always had my favorite players on the Cardinals. Um, the first favorite player on the Cardinals was Willie McGee. Ted Simmons. And I was also a big fan of George Hendrick, and then Willie McGee. And, I progressed through the years. My favorite Cardinal right now is Mason Wynn. Um, I
Good
just
choice.
love watching that guy play, and I'm so happy that this year I can actually get the app and watch the Cardinal games. My wife's gonna be very happy too. Uh, I just like what I have seen of him. I've seen him play enough on the field that I really like what I see, but uh, just the way he carries himself, this guy is going to be in barring injury or something, he's going to be one of those players that's going to be uh, beloved in the city of St. Louis, and off to a good start with that, with the year he had last year. So, is anything happening in Cubland?
Oh, I can't wait to hear all this. Yeah, look at Vince's face. Yeah, he's a happy man.
Okay, the Cubs
Woo-hoo.
traded Itzhak Paredes, our third baseman that we got midseason from the Rays. Hayden Wesneski, who we got from the Yankees a few years ago in the Rizzo trade. And Wesneski, he would go through stretches where he would be great, and then he would go through stretches where he would be just awful. He has a wonderful sweeper. He's got great stuff. He just can't put it all together. Cam Smith, our number one first round pick. Excuse me. Our first round pick from last year. Um, he was fast tracked. He finished the year in Double A, and he's an infielder, and it looked like that he was someone that we were going to fast track and have in the majors within a few years. We trade those three for Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros, and I was listening to a podcast about 6 weeks ago, and I wish I could remember the podcaster. He brought up Kyle Tucker could be had. Nobody else was saying that. No one said it after that. But I did remember it. I mentioned it on this show. Kyle Tucker's possibility. It wasn't originally with me. I got it from another podcaster, but I don't know where he got his information. Lo and behold, we get Kyle Tucker. These are the specifics of it. We are losing Paredes, who was never going to hit in Wrigley Field. He's a dead pull hitter. We have the longest foul poles in the major leagues, and he was always going to struggle in Wrigley Field. He's an average defensive third base, and we got rid of Morel for him to think maybe he was the answer. He's not the answer. He's going to thrive in Houston because they have the Crawford boxes. What does that also mean for Houston? They're not going to sign Bregman, and they're out of the Bregman sweepstakes, and I'll get back into that in a minute. We get rid of Wisniewski. Houston has done a great job at taking relievers and honing everything and making them effective. So I'm really happy for Hayden. I think he's going to a good system. Cam Smith is what they really wanted. Cam Smith may be a few years away, but he is going to be someone in a few years who will take over that if he progresses like we think he's going to, who could take over that third base spot from Paredes. So Houston did really good, and they're getting rid of Tucker, who they are not going to resign next year. He's on the last year of his contract, so this may be a 1 year deal for the Cubs, and I'm okay with that. This is what Tucker did last year. He played 78 games, fouled the ball off his shin, and broke his shin. So he only played 78 games. In 78 games, he had 23 home runs and drove in 49 runs. So he was looking at possibly a 50 home run season with 100 RBIs. He hit 289 last year, and his OPS was 993. He was an all-star. The year before, in 23, 29 home runs, 112 RBIs, 284 average, 886 OPS. All-star, got MVP votes, and won the Silver Slugger. He's top 5 in MVP. The year before that, 2022, 30 home runs, 107 RBIs, 257 average, 808 OPS, All-Star, top 15 in MVP, and won a Gold Glove. The year before that, 2021, he was, or excuse me, 2023. Uh, no, yeah, 2023. Okay, 2020. That's why I'm getting my stuff mixed up. He hit 30 home runs, 107 RBIs. He has a career OPS of 870. He has also stolen where have I did 94 bases in his career. He has won a Gold Glove, 2 Gold Gloves. He is an absolute stud. His WAR last year was 4.7 in 78 games. That would have been the highest on the Cubs, and he only played a half season. His career WAR is 23. His WAR has been in the mid fives, all except for last year. And last year looked like he was kicking it into another gear. This is a guy who's going to have $400 to $500 million contract waiting for him. Do I mind that we may not get him, that he's going to go into free agency? I don't think we're going to extend him. Why would he extend when he can go into the free market and drive the price up? I don't think they're going to extend him. I don't think he's going to let them extend, but I do think maybe we'll be in the sweepstakes to get him. But what this is telling me is they're going for it this year. They're trying to win this year, and they have to. First of all, if Jed Hoyer does not make the postseason, Jed Hoyer is going to lose his job. So, yeah, that's why this trade was made. Jed's trying to save his job, but they are going all in. They've added pitching. They've added Kyle Tucker now. They where's my notes at? They also signed Carson Kelly for a backup catcher, 2 years, $11.5 million. Why are they paying $11.5 million for a backup catcher? Because Carson Kelly is a backup catcher. He's not someone who's saying, I need to start, I need to start. He knows his place in baseball, and that's why he is sought after as a backup catcher. So 5 million, 5.5 million, 6 million, whatever it is. That's not bad for our backup catcher, considering that our starting catcher is still on a team controlled contract. So we can overpay. Some people are saying for Carson Kelly. Um, just today, before we got on here, we traded Cody Bellinger to the Yankees for Cody Petit, who is a 30-year-old reliever. Big deal. This was obviously a salary dump, and I don't mind it. And I will tell you why. The Cubs paid the Yankees 5 million. We'll give you 5 million. You give us this middle reliever who's struggled to stay in the majors, and we'll give you Cody Bellinger. I like this move. Okay, from Cody's perspective, he's making 27 million this year, and if he opts in next year, he's going to make about the same. So we'd be on the hook for 55 million for a guy who had a 2.2 WAR last year. That's not what you pay a guy with a 2.2 WAR last year. He was never going to hit great in Wrigley Field. He had a very good 2023 season, but he hit 27 home runs. Cody Bellinger used to hit 40, 45 bombs a year. So this year, I think he hit 17 home runs. He's going to New York where they have that short right field porch. He's a left-hander. He's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman, so they're going to get a great defensive first baseman, and he's going to maybe push 30 home runs in that ballpark. It's a great move for him. It's a great move for the Cubs because being instead of paying 55, 56 million over the next 2 years, we paid the Yankees 5 million. So we paid 10% of that contract to the Yankees. That frees up almost 50 million under the cap. That's going to allow us to get a Corbin Burns or sign an Alex Bregman. That's going to enable us to make another major move in order for us to go for it. There's all kinds of rumors that we're talking to the Marlins about Jesus Luzardo, who was injured last year, but when he came back and pitched against the Cubs, I thought, hey, he still looks good. That would be another addition that we could use. We've already signed Boyd. We are in the Sasaki sweepstakes. It's not even a sweepstakes because he's got to take a team controlled contract. So it's just we're trying to schmooze him. This team can be the class of the division. We have done a lot of small moves in the bullpen, and the bullpen last year for the second half of the season was the best in the National League. It was disastrous in the first half, so people think, gosh, the Cubs bullpen was terrible last year. No, we were terrible for a half a year. We were great the second half of the year. So there's a lot of optimism from my camp. Are all Cub fans like this? No, because I'll tell you the average Cub fan. The average Cub fan says, hey, we can't win 83 games again. We need to do something different. So what do? We trade for Kyle Tucker. We trade Bellinger away. Why are we trading our best players away? Our best player is a 2.2 WAR player. If you've subscribed to Bellinger's our best player, that sucks. We need a better player. Where was Bellinger going to play? Left field, Ian Happ, Gold Glover. Center fielder, PCA, Gold Glove caliber center fielder. Right field, Kyle Tucker, Gold Glover. First base, Michael Bush. Bellinger had nowhere to play on this team. DH, Seiya Suzuki. There was no room for him on this team. I am so happy for Bellinger and for the Cubs. He can play in New York, a stadium much more suited to his skills. He can play first base. He'll probably win a Gold Glove there. He is that good at first base. That opens up, or that means that we don't have to try to shoehorn him in there. Our only hole that I see right now, we have third base. It looks like, as of this recording, Mike Shaw, our top prospect, is going to be at third base. The problem is everything that I've read about Mike Shaw, he's not a good third baseman. People said, well, why don't we put Bush at third? The reason Michael Bush stayed with the Dodgers as a prospect into his late 20s is because they tried to teach him to play second and third base in the minors. He couldn't do it. His only position he's good at is first base. Who's in Los Angeles? Freddie Freeman. That's why the Cubs were able to pick him up and put him at first base. So if we have a hole, it is at third base right now because Mike Shaw is ready for the majors. Excuse me, Matt Shaw. But is he a great fielder? No. Which brings up this. The rumors all winter has been that we're shopping Nico Horner. Nico gets traded. You put Shaw at second base, where he is a much better fielder. He doesn't have to make that long throw, and he doesn't have to have the quick reflexes. With the money we freed up, maybe we do sign an Alex Bregman to play third base. You know who his friend is? Kyle Tucker. Ha ha.
Ah,
If it's not that, we have enough money for a Corbin Burns. Maybe sign him. You know who his former manager was?
oh,
Council.
council.
So
Yeah.
um, there's a lot of avenues we could do. Um, and I don't think the Cubs are near done. Now, remember, Sasaki is still, we're still in the mix on Sasaki. So I think if we don't sign Burns, we could conceivably get Sasaki. I would rather get Sasaki because he's going to be on a team controlled contract, 750,000. Burns is going to be about 750 million. So we get
Is he friends with your other Japanese player? Or do they have some sort of relationship as well? A friendship or
they know
anything?
each other. Sasaki, as Suzuki was, are friends with Yu Darvish. Um, kind of Yu Darvish mentored
Oh,
them. Yu Darvish has talked up Chicago to both of them. I do know that. Um, and Shota is a Japanese legend. And so I'm sure Sasaki will, oh yeah, I'll like to play with Shota too.
yeah,
There's some appealing things
yeah.
to the Cubs for Sasaki. Now the deal is it's always funner to play on the coast, New York, Los Angeles. It's always funner to play there. You get a lot more opportunities. But I think Chicago, with our history of Asian players, we've had quite a few of them, and a lot of them have been very good. We've had good relations with them. I think we built up enough goodwill that puts us gives us a slight advantage. We have had an Asian presence for a long time, a strong Asian presence. We are the team with the strongest Asian presence from Major League Baseball, and that's why we tend to get these players. So I hope we can get Sasaki. I hope we don't have to get Burns, and I hope we have enough money to pay Bregman. And suddenly, this team doesn't look like a team that can just win the division. This team looks like a team that can compete for a World Series. So that's why I'm very optimistic. That's why when Max and I talked last week about the direction the Cubs were going, we were both feeling pretty good about it. But your average Cub fan, they they just want to complain, and I think
I
that's
think
just
that's most fans, Vince. I think most fans have a fan base. They have a big section that just they're never happy about anything.
yeah.
You know, we win one series. Why didn't you win two in a row? You know, it's always something. You know, every once in a while, a player comes along and he's a perfect fit. We've made lots of moves over the years. Some of them don't work out. Some of them are okay. Larry Walker, I thought he was that was a great move for the Cardinals. And the problem was he was not Pujols. And he came in after Pujols as one of the big players, and he earned every penny. I think he was a great player here. He just wasn't it wasn't the same as Pujols. But some of the moves, there was a guy when we got Jack Clark, that was the perfect guy at the perfect time, and everything exploded. And I think Kyle Tucker is that guy for you. Like you said, he's only got 1 year, but I think when he goes to Wrigley, he is going to be king of the city. They are going to fall in love with that guy. He is a anytime in the card sets that they have a team's top players, Kyle Tucker on a team with star studded was the star card for the Astros. And now he's going to be a Cub. I think it's a perfect fit, Vince. And I think he's going to go there. They're going to fall in love with him. And I think you got as good a chance of keeping him around for the rest of his career as any other team out there. And, in our division, any team could win it, but I think the Cubs, percentage wise, when Vegas put out their odds, you guys have the best odds. You've got a very good team. And I think the thing that got you where you're at now is you guys built a very good minor league system. And you had enough of very good prospects that you've been able to move and get players you needed and fit them in. And this seems like it's every year it's kind of been getting a little better, a little better. And I think this is going to be the Cubs' year in our division, and that's without these extra moves coming. So look out, man! It's gonna be a good year in Wrigleyville, and we're the underdogs. And I think the Cardinals. I like it when there's no expectations on the Cardinals because if we win 85 games, I think we'll be like, hey, when we have all the expectation, that's usually when we let everybody down.
Well, as you can tell, I'm very excited about this. So,
Oh yeah, it's good for baseball. Having Chicago be a playoff team, it's good for baseball.
I agree with our fan base, and I think it's going to be a tremendous year for the division with Cincinnati being better, Milwaukee
It's
refusing to back
yeah.
up. The Cardinals still have some fight in them, and Pittsburgh's a wild card. If they Skeens, if Brian Hayes stays healthy and becomes a little bit of a better hitter, they can make some noise too. O'Neal Cruz stays healthy, so
That Reynolds kid, I love him over there in Pittsburgh.
yeah. Uh, just to finish off Cub news, we do have some departing players of note. Patrick Wisdom surprised me. He has signed to play in the Korean Baseball League. And I
Hmm.
kind of looked at Patrick Wisdom as one of these guys that was going to latch on a second tier team as a DH and hit 220 and hit 35 bombs, but that ain't going to happen now. And David Bodie, who may be the smartest, well, his agent may be the smartest agent in the history of baseball. He signed a minor league contract with the Dodgers. For those of you who don't know, David Bodie played his first year for the Cubs as a fourth outfielder, had a pretty good season, and his agent, the Cubs made a statement, we're open to extending players, and his agent actually called the Cubs and said, hey, you can extend my player. How about 5 years, 15 million? And the Cubs said, sure. And David Bodie spent at least half his time in the minor leagues collecting that money. So,
He lived a good life there for 5 years. Very
oh,
good.
I love David Bodie. He just wasn't worth that, but man, he got it. So, you know who else is worth it? Got a great
Oh,
agent,
I don't know. Yeah, hey, he's worth every penny. Jeremy Connor for sure.
Jeremy Connor. Comes a time in every man's life when he needs some advice on relationships. You need to listen to the podcast DMDR, which stands for Dating, Marriage, Divorce, Remarriage, from my good friend Jeremy Connor, the Dr. Phil of the Boot Hill. You can find DMDR on Spotify or whatever platform you choose to listen to your podcast. Welcome back. We have a special guest with us. We have Kim Wesling, and she has the distinction of being, if you can't see, a Milwaukee Brewers fan.
Yay.
Now, if you'll remember, a
Yeah.
few months ago, we actually had our son Brendan on, and he talked about being a sausage racer. Um, that sounds weird when I say it like that. A sausage racer.
It
But
sounds like,
we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the 1982 World Series. Um, I watched it kind of from an outsider's perspective, being a Cub fan, but I was living in St. Louis, so the excitement was there, and everybody was going nuts, and it was the first time I'd lived through a World Series, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I found out that the Cardinals make the World Series all the time, and it's really not such a big deal to us. But for
yeah.
someone living in Milwaukee, where there hasn't been a whole lot of playoff baseball, um, it's a different dynamic. So, Kim, we always ask all of our guests, how did you become a baseball fan?
Um, uh, it was from little on. My family, my mom was born here in Milwaukee, but her parents were came from Mexico. So it's the tradition, and a tradition even in other ethnic groups too. But in the Mexican family, we always went over to my grandma's house, and she cooked a big meal on Sundays. And they had this big porch, and we used to listen to my aunt would put the Brewers games on this little transistor radio, and so we'd listen to them all the time. So I think it just was ingrained in me from little on, and I used to, yeah, I lived in Boston for a while, so and that was fun, to get on board with the Red Sox, and then came back here, and my husband and I, we have like a 20 pack series for the games for the past maybe like 4 years or so. So
Nice.
yeah.
Now, was your mother, was she a, a Milwaukee Braves fan?
My mom wasn't even a baseball fan at all, but she was at the World Series with us. So
Okay.
yeah. Now my mom, she would go, but then as the years went on, she was the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce in Milwaukee, and so she'd have an annual event for, it was, what was it called, Hispanic. Um, I can't remember what it was called, but she was instrumental behind she was the reason why chorizo is the sausage, because she said, hey, we don't have the Hispanic community isn't represented in this group here, so she's the one who like started that. So she wasn't like she would go to the game, and she'd maybe sit there for like half a game or something, but she didn't love the game. She loved the idea of it, and loved the excitement that everybody else had, but she wasn't herself a huge fan. But she was the reason why we have the chorizo sausage today. So
Nice. So in 1982, um, do you remember when you were realizing this team is really good? Was that like during the season, sometime towards the end of the season, or did you go into the season thinking, I think we're pretty good this year?
yeah, I think I remember the players and the camaraderie that they had with each other, and they just were so beloved in the city. Like everybody just loved, like, Storm and Gorman Thomas, and uh, Vukovic. I can't think of Vukovic. I can't think of him. Paul Molitor. Like, who was the first baseman? Oh, he was
Is that
great.
Cecil
a
Cooper.
Cecil
Yes,
Cooper?
Cooper. Yeah, it was Cecil Cooper. Oh my gosh. So everybody just really rallied around the team, because we like, that's what I remember. Like I too, like I wasn't like big technical like baseball fan, like stats and stuff, like my aunt and even my cousins were more into it that way. But everybody else just like loved the players. Like everybody just loved them, and the coach too. He was great. So yeah.
Now, JJ, going into the 82 season, did you think that the Cardinals were legitimate contenders for the playoffs that year?
I did. And because Whitey Herzog came over, made a lot of wheeling and dealing, traded some players over to Milwaukee. I think you guys got the better end of the shake in that deal, but it freed up some other players to play. And if you remember, 81 was a strike year. and we actually had a better record in our division, but didn't make the playoffs. It was the Expos in the first half, and I think it was the Phillies in the second half. And we were like, you got to be kidding me. And the Reds did the same thing in their division. So we were like, maybe this is our year. And it seemed like everything was coming into place. But as a fan, I was shocked because in the 70s, I know the Cardinals have a long history of winning, but we were sometimes we were not so good, sometimes we were okay. But the Pirates and the Phillies would just mop the floor with us. And it seemed like when Whitey came, things started changing. So I thought maybe this is a chance. But it seemed like getting to the playoffs and the World Series was for other cities and other teams, and it was just too far fetched to believe. So I as a fan was very never took anything for granted. Hey, we took 2 out of 3. Let's keep it going. But anyway, that was my take on the beginning of the year.
Well, you brought up the fascinating side topic that relates to this is that um, the Cardinals and Brewers, I think before the 81 season, made the trade where the Brewers got Vukovich and Simmons. And
Raleigh Fingers.
and
Fingers was
Oh,
in that deal
wow.
too.
Oh, he was
Yeah.
great too. Yeah, we
Oh,
loved
he
him.
was fantastic.
Yeah.
and the Cardinals got David
We got
Green.
David Green was the player we thought was going to be the big star, actually. And we got Larry Sorensen and Dave LaPointe that were like the 4th and 5th starters on the rotation. And then an outfielder named Sixto Lascano, too.
Yeah, Lascano. So it was a huge trade.
Huge trade.
And then it
I
was
didn't realize that.
kind of pretty cool that they both played each other a year later.
Yeah, it benefited both teams, really.
Yeah.
So Kim, you mentioned some of your favorite players from that team, Vukovich and Cecil Cooper and Molitor. And these were players that were very involved in the community, probably Robin Yount also.
Yeah, Robin Yount. Yep.
JJ, who were the players on the Cardinals that you really liked?
My all-time favorite player, well, all-time, but as a kid growing up, Ted Simmons was my favorite player. And the story went, Ted Simmons, Whitey wanted Porter to catch and Simmons to move to first because he was a great hitter. And Simmons wanted to catch. So we kept Hernandez and traded Simmons to Milwaukee, and it broke my heart. So, but on that Cardinal team, I think Keith Hernandez was the best fielding first baseman I've ever seen in my lifetime. Tons of gold gloves. Of course, Ozzie Smith. Who doesn't love Ozzie? Joaquin Andujar, maybe, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he brought some sort of excitement to the field. He was a wild man, and you never knew if he was going to be out of control or not. And Bruce Sutter, who we got from the Cubs, I don't know how that happened. It's like the good Lord said, hey, need Bruce Sutter. And because at one time we had Bruce Sutter and Raleigh Fingers look like in our bullpen, and we traded Fingers to the Brewers. But those were, the guys for me. And then that year, Willie McGee became a St. Louis legend, and everybody to this day loves Willie McGee. So that was some of my favorite players right there.
So, Kim, do you still have players from that 82 team that are still active in the community, in the Milwaukee community?
We hear from Robin Yount, I think, every once in a while in the community. I would say, probably that's probably about it right now. But we just had that movie. That's what spurred me. I had posted a post on Facebook about. There's a movie that they made, a documentary, and it's called Just a Bit Outside. And it was showed in our theaters here locally. And they were only going to release it for a couple weeks, and it just kept growing, and they kept adding weeks and weeks and weeks because it just grew like wildfire. And they interviewed a lot of the old players, and they showed them from back then and here and today. And Robin Yount was a big part of that movie, and he still was all choked up and teared up about like just not winning the game. He said it's something that he loved being there, but losing that game was like, he was like crying on the movie. So it's you talk about the emotional piece, but about them not winning, but yeah, it was a big deal. So
Do you remember? You said you went to one of the games?
yep, I went to game 5. Yeah, and we won that game, so that was nice. Yeah.
I went to game 1.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and that was the game. I camped out. I skipped school. Nobody knew where I was. I camped. I was 13th in line. I went through
Wow.
all that. I only had money for tickets and 2 Mountain Dews. That was it. So for 4 days, I lived on 2 Mountain Dews. But I went through all that. Hitchhiked. I had a friend that took me up to the game, whose dad was a cameraman for Channel 4 here in St. Louis. And then you guys, with all that work put in, you guys crushed us in game 1, 10-0. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to say this. I love the Brewers. I love the city. I've been to Milwaukee the last 2 years to see games. But I went to batting practice and I would close my eyes and I could tell who was batting. When the Brewers were up there taking batting practice, it sounded like gunshots were going off. Everybody on that team could hit home runs. And then if I heard tink, tink, it was the Cardinals at bat. Ozzie Smith would just hit a little bit ball in the gap, or Willie, or Oberkfell, or her, or whoever, and you could just hear the difference. And so it was billed like power and pitching versus and 2 great bullpens versus speed and defense. That's really how it was billed, and which is better, how it's going to play out. And it was a great series, and I love the Brewers. I love their emblem. I always thought of the Brewers as a working man's team, because you guys were in the American League back then, and you were in the same division with the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Orioles, and those teams go out and spend a lot of money, and the Brewers will
Right.
just piece their team together. And I always respected them. And I have a
Really.
DVD of Bob Uecker narrates, and it's about how they built the team
Oh,
through,
nice. Yeah.
and it's great. And I've went over to a couple of friends, and we get together about every couple of years and watch that thing. And of course,
Uh-huh.
it's got the highlights of the series in it and everything.
Right.
But
Oh,
you know,
nice.
love
Yes.
Milwaukee, love
Oh,
Leon's frozen custard.
Leon's is the best frozen custard, hands down. Like, yeah.
Amen.
Oh
Amen.
gosh. The
And
butter pecan is like amazing. There's nothing like that custard. It's just, there's other custard places, but Leon's is my favorite too. Yeah.
and there's a German restaurant, Mater's,
Yep. Taters,
downtown.
Yep.
And there's a root beer you guys have up there too, Skechers or
Yeah.
something.
Sprecher.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So I took a tour there.
Oh,
Loved
yes.
and the nicest people. I like a
Yeah.
series that was respectful, and the Brewer fans were into the games and everything, but very respectful. And I think it was back and forth both teams that year. It was just
Yeah.
fantastic series.
Yeah, I asked my uncle to ask him if he remembers anything about the game, because he was with me. Like I went with my aunt, my uncle, my mom, and my sister, and he said he owned a trucking company before he retired, and he had Brewers things on his side view mirrors, and he remembers driving down to St. Louis during the whole series time, and he said that the St. Louis people weren't as nice. they like gave him the finger, and they'd roll down their windows and like yell at him and say, "You're gonna
Oh,
lose," and yeah.
oh,
But he bought a Cardinals uniform for his son. His son was at the game too. He was probably about 6 or 7, but
oh,
because he liked the uniform so much. So
oh.
I was
Very
like, oh,
cool.
that's what you remember. But
Well, I apologize for the unruly fans. There's
they're
always
just,
a couple of bad eggs out
oh
there.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure we have plenty of those too. But yeah. And then I asked my aunt what her memories are, and she didn't get to go to the World Series, even though she was like, she's the biggest Brewers fan I know. Like, she is just huge on them. And she said she just remembers that we still had like a parade, even though we lost. And even the players remember that. Like, they were like, oh, just a few people are going to be out here. Who's going to welcome us home? We lost. And it was a huge turnout, like tons of people. And it was just like, yeah. And that's what she remembers about the game, even though we lost. She's like, she remembers the homecoming and having that parade, and like the whole city was behind them. It was just magical. And just talking about that movie, people who have relived that movie and watched the movie remember that time, and everybody I know who watches the movie has cried, like just like remembering it. It was just it was so emotional. It was so great. Yeah.
So I
Baseball.
guarantee you I would cry because I cry at every Christmas movie I watch. And I hear a song on the radio and I'll start crying. I as I get older, I cry easier, you know,
Yeah. It's
especially
a
because
Wonderful Life. I cannot, I cry every time I watch It's a Wonderful Life. That's my favorite.
oh, I cry.
Hallmark movie. If I see a Hallmark movie, you better get the tissue out, man. And I know the ending. I know the ending of every Hallmark movie, but I still shed the tears.
I cried at Home Alone the other day. I'm watching Home Alone, and when he looks over and he sees the old man with his son, yeah,
Oh boy.
you have emotional things. Um, Contrast the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of the World Series for both cities. In St. Louis, if you lose the World Series, they're not throwing you a parade.
No.
You lost the World Series. Milwaukee, a smaller town, who, by the way, had won one or two World Series in the 60s with the Braves. I mean, they weren't foreign to baseball. Um, they had a parade, uh, even though they lost the World Series. And I only know one other team that did that. That was the 1980 Kansas City Royals had a parade when they lost the World Series. That was also very well attended. I think it's kind of a, I guess I don't want to say that St. Louis isn't as appreciative. Um, the expectations are higher for an organization that's been around for over 100 years and won so many World Series. But it's a special moment. Did you think that after the World Series, the city was kind of depressed, or do you think they were like, okay, we made it to the World Series, this is a big deal, and it was still more of a celebration?
Yeah, I don't remember the depressed part. Yeah, I was in high school at the time, and so it was a long time ago. But yeah, I don't remember like the aftermath so much, and like what were the expectations for the next season. I don't even remember, like, was everybody the same? I don't even remember that part, but I just, yeah.
JJ, what was the mood, the aftermath in St. Louis?
When I it just seemed like a new era. And baseball's a crazy game. You can win 110 games one year and 90, and then only win 75 the next. It's a crazy business. Nothing's guaranteed, and you always think, "Ooh, we'll go back. Ooh, we might go back the next 4 or 5 years." But it seems like that winter went really quick. Once you win the World Series, it's on front of the papers, excitement, and then spring training gets here as fast as I've ever remembered it. And it just seemed like we finally figured out how to win or something like that. And uh, every team's got older players, and you think about, oh, I wonder if so and so, like Steve Braun was on the team, our pinch hitter deluxe, and you guys had Don Sutton, who was a Dodger forever, but he came in there, was a big part of that team.
Yeah,
And
he was huge. Yeah.
yeah, you got the young guys coming up, and through that series, I was so amazed. Paul Molitor had 5 hits in that first game, and I thought, good Lord, who is this guy? Because we didn't get to see all the games.
Yeah, yeah.
But we were like, maybe this will happen more often. And Whitey Herzog was just, never in my life has a coach been that he was as big as any of the players here. Even when Tony La Russa was here, I don't think he was as big as, to this day, Whitey Herzog is
No,
loved and admired here.
Celebrity in St. Louis. Yeah.
Yes. I tell you what, I don't need a hearing aid, but he was selling hearing aids, and I thought about getting one just because Whitey Herzog said, get a hearing aid. Because I love Whitey. But no, we thought, and that time with Whitey, those years, and it kind of ended when Augie Bush, the owner of the brewery, passed away. things changed. They didn't seem to care about the team as much, and we kind of floundered for about 5 years after that. But that time period was just, you just hang on to it because you don't know how long it's going to last, and enjoy the players and all that. And you guys had a great group of players. And I'm going to put a little side note in here. As a kid, we never got to see American League Baseball, and you guys were in the playoffs against the California Angels. And I was kind of pulling for the Angels because I was thinking, oh, we might get to see Reggie Jackson and Rod Carew and all these
Yeah.
guys. Because I sort of knew your players, but not like I knew, Joe, who was it, Fred Lynn and Joe Rudy and all those guys. I was like, oh my gosh, this will be incredible. And then when you guys were down 0-2, you came back and won the next 3 games to get to the World Series. I was like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That was
fell in
exciting.
love with a lot of your players. And, we knew some of them, but Gorman Thomas, that guy,
Oh,
he looked like a right fielder, but he played center field. And Jim Gatner, that guy could play any position out there and do top
yeah.
notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlie Moore, the other
Oh,
catcher.
yeah.
Yeah, he was a DH when Simmons caught when Simmons was DH. And just
yeah. Do you
absolutely
guys
love that stuff.
do you guys feel like the players stayed with teams longer back then? Is that a thing? Like, are they traded more often nowadays? Like, is it?
In our cities, I think so. They get traded more often because the contracts are so high these days.
Right.
Seems
Yeah.
like they stay 5-6 years.
Yeah. We don't have the
And
money.
then,
Yeah.
and maybe we can keep 1 or 2 of them, but then they go to Los Angeles or New York or Boston or
Yeah.
one of those cities, And so, I think you guys are smart. You got that Jackson Cheerios kid.
Yes. Yeah.
And you signed him for a bunch of years, and he's going to be
We
a
have
big
him
part of your
locked in.
team. And
Yeah.
me and my son love watching that kid play.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, we really enjoy him.
And I love your new stadium. Although the stadium back then was, it had its charm, but the new stadium, I love the retractable roof and
Yes.
the Bob Bucher statue up at the top
Right.
and all that stuff.
Yeah, it
that's
really,
very nice.
yeah, having the roof is like just golden, especially in the spring. It's just like we can just go and it's great when other cities have to cancel their games and postpone them. Yeah, it's really nice.
I talked to a lot of Brewer fans, and they said they'd like to have family reunions in Milwaukee because they know they all go to the ball games together, and they know it won't get rained out. So they come to Milwaukee, and I think that's great, and it's a great city, and well, and
we always
if the Cardinals can't win it, I always say, well, I hope the Brewers kind of do it this year.
Yeah.
Well, I have a few different memories from the World Series as an outsider. Number one, I remember our mayor, Vincent at the time, bet your mayor, who I don't know who it was, but they bet a case of beer, Milwaukee's finest versus St. Louis's finest. It was dubbed the Sud Series because of the breweries, which was kind of cool. I also remember, I think it was Game 3. Dave LaPointe started for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals were rolling, and then it was a dribbler or a bunt, and he went to cover first, and he dropped the ball, and things just fell apart from there for the Cardinals. I remember watching that in a pizza place with no sound, and I guess that's why it stuck with me. Like, oh, you dropped that ball, and next thing I know, the Brewers come back. But I think it was only fitting at the end, the very last out. The Cardinals had Suter on the mound, and the Brewers had Gorman Thomas up the bat, and it was either going to be a strikeout or a home run. That was the 2 possibilities, and it did end up being a strikeout. Gorman swung at the ball that was a little bit high and outside, but hey, it was a great series. It went 7 games. I always like when a series goes 7 games, and really cool, really cool. It was my first time to watch a World Series in an atmosphere where people were invested, I guess you could say. So, well, we need to move on.
Can I show a couple artifacts real quick? You might get a kick out of this, Kim, if it's okay.
Oh, sure.
You were in St. Louis. Coca-Cola had these little Coca-Cola bottles, the 82 World Champions.
Oh, my gosh.
And with that, I have 2 of them, and one's half evaporated, but this is the one that's completely full. And it's got all the scores and they
Oh,
canceled
wow.
about
Look at
30.
that.
Yes. So that was kind of a thing. And I still have two of those to this day. I have, this might bring back some memories, the scorecard or the program. This was the program from the 82 World Series, $3. And when they printed these, they had like these were sold. This one was sold in St. Louis. It's got all the St. Louis stuff in it, but they didn't know who was going to be in the World Series. So you get this big section on the Cardinals and the Braves and the Angels and the Brewers. And there's a picture here of all the Brewers from Bud Selig
Oh, wow.
to
Look at
every
that.
player on there. And
Um,
there's some guys I forgot about. Doc Medich was on your team, which he was an all-time Pirate. Of course, Don Sutton right there. Your pitching coach was Pat Dobson, who was one of the 20 game winners on the 71 Orioles. I mean, just so many pieces in there.
wow.
Ned Yost, who later coached the Royals, was like the third string catcher on the Brewers that year. So
Oh my
so
gosh.
so many
Wow.
little stories there.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's great. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing those.
oh yeah, and my 82 media guide and Whitey Herzog had signed my 82 media guide. I have Brewer stuff all over, but to find it and get here on
I
time,
know.
I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. But I appreciate you so much, and I love your city. I love going to the games.
Oh,
Went to
thank you.
went to two last year and two the year before, and we plan on being back again sometime soon.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let me know when you're in town and we might be at a game and we can have a beer together. Yep. That'd be great.
Hey, all
It's,
right, there you
yeah,
go.
I do. I love our city too. So thanks.
Well, Kim, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your
Well,
thoughts
George.
and your memories, and
Awesome.
it's been a joy and a pleasure.
All right. Well,
So,
thank you for having me.
thank you,
Appreciate it.
And
and
Merry
I'll
Christmas to you guys.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, JJ. I'm opening 1988 score.
Ooh, you went old school.
I'm
I
always
went new
cool.
school. I got that 2024 update set, the tops update. Uh, Mine's not sexy like yours. You don't have Hall of Famers. These are guys that just got to the big leagues or they were traded at the end of the year to a new team. So you'll have all these Rod Carew guys and everything, and I'll have David Bodie.
Well, I do want to remind you, I'm opening baseball cards, not Playboy cards. There's nothing sexy in
The
here, you
Playboy card.
weirdo.
Yeah. Oh, Vicky Witt, Patty McGuire.
I'm gonna say two Hall of Famers.
Okay, well, to be different, I'll say one. I know, you know what? I'm saying no Hall of Famers for you, my friend.
Custom for you. Uh,
No.
all right, I'll go first.
All right.
Oh, the guy, the man, the legend, Rob Deere,
Oh, big Rob Deere.
Dave Kingman of the 80s and 90s.
He's usually the first one to the snow cone shack after the game.
Now, this guy should have been a Hall of Famer, but he just couldn't stay away from the needle. Roger Clemens,
Oh, yes.
one of my least favorite human beings, by the way. Hall of Famer, the
Okay, we
chicken
got.
Wade Boggs.
Oh, I love Boggs.
Oh,
That man can drink some beer.
he's going for my beer. Oh, no.
Keep him away from that beer. What a player. Love Wade Boggs.
Oh, left-handed pitcher for the Athletics. I remember this guy, Kurt Young.
Oh, yeah. He had a nice career.
And I remember this guy played for the Mets, played for the Twins, second baseman, Tim Tuffle.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot about him, but I remember the name.
Oh, one of these holograms, great moments in baseball. Do you remember Arlington Stadium, September
Yes.
30th, 1984? And of course, it's too small for me to read. So
I'm sure it was something great.
something cool happened. Uh, Starting pitcher for the Red Sox, Steve Crawford.
Oh, yes.
Uh, oh, for the Orioles and also for the Padres, another guy that had drug problems, had a promising career, faded out. Alan Wiggins.
Oh, yeah. Fast guy.
Pretty fast guy, yeah. Oh, and this is a guy who uh, took his rod and parted the wet Red Sea. John Moses. Look at that.
Good man.
Caught up.
Never saw the promised land though. Threw them tablets down.
Oh, pitcher Don Carmen. Don't remember him,
Don't remember
but there
Carmen.
he is. He existed. Outfielder for the Seattle Mariners. I don't remember this guy, John Christensen.
No, don't recall. Don't recall him.
Oh, you know this guy, former Cardinal catcher, former Pittsburgh catcher, uh,
Tony Pena?
Gold Glover. No, no, no.
Mike LaValliere.
Mike LaValliere.
Yeah, Spanky.
Uh, here's a guy we've had before, left fielder, former Cub, and had one of the greatest playoff games or playoff runs ever for the Astros at this time, Billy Hatcher.
Billy Hatcher was on fire.
Yeah, it's weird that he he was up and down for the Cubs for a few years, and then went to Houston, and suddenly started hitting like 290. Uh, pitcher for the Detroit Tigers, Mike Henneman.
Oh, yes, Festus, Missouri's own Mike Henneman.
Yes, yes, we had him a few weeks ago.
He's back again, ladies and gentlemen.
Born in St. Charles, lives in Festus. We need to get this guy on the show.
Jefferson College Hall of Famer, too.
There we go. This guy is not a Hall of Famer, but he is a memorable player, both on the gridiron and in baseball. The hero of the 1988 World Series, even though he just had one at bat, Kurt Gibson.
Loved him. Was a manager, too, in the big leagues.
Yeah, yeah. He played, I think my last year in Kansas City was 1990, and the Royals signed him. And yeah, it was, yeah, you could tell injuries had just caught up with him. Second, Hall of Famer, Old Nuxie, Phil Niekro.
Love Phil Niekro. Love him. Can you imagine facing Phil Niekro on Monday and Tuesday? You got to go against J.R. Richard. That wouldn't be fair.
Pitcher for the Reds, Dennis Rasmussen.
Yeah, we had a Rasmussen. It was Harry Rasmussen, though. I don't remember Dennis.
Yeah, Harry Rasmussen changed his name to Eric. Do you remember that? Legally changed his name to Eric.
I remember that.
One year's baseball card was Harry Rasmussen. The next year was Eric Rasmussen. I thought, what happened? And I found out they changed his name legally. Yeah. Why would you change your first name legally?
I don't know. Maybe to honor somebody, maybe. I don't know.
I thought about doing it and changing my first name to Eagle Beast.
That looked good on a baseball card.
Yeah, yeah. And
finally, offer?
What's that?
Eagle Beast offer?
Yeah,
that has a ring to it. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I always wanted to be named Rawbone.
Just sing the blues?
It sounds tough. There's a Raw.
Be a blues man.
And finally, pitcher for the Angels, Kurt McCaskill. 2 Hall of Famers. Very happy about that.
And you got it right. You were right on the money, too. I will have no Hall of Famers. Maybe future Hall of Famers. Future. Think about 2024. I like these cards they do where they take 2 pitchers from a team. Of course, it's the White Sox. And it's a rookie combo, Ramsey and Navarro. So there's 2 future White Sox players. I like the different uniforms. I'm kind of fond of this one. That's when Carlton Fisk was a member of the team. So I kind of like that look.
You know, I loved the untucked white shirts that's in Chicago and with the black shorts that everybody hated. Yes, they had it in the late 70s. Yes. I loved that uniform. And it persistently, when you see the worst uniforms ever, that's always on there. I'm thinking that was an awesome uniform.
I think it was the shorts that threw it off. Maybe it was because of the shorts, perhaps.
They only wore the shorts for like one game. It's not like it lasted or anything.
Oh, see, we saw so little. I didn't realize just one game. When you see those uniforms, who do you think of? What White Sox player do you think of with the collar and all that? Which player?
George Orta, for some reason.
Oh, I think of Ralph Garr. That's the guy I think of with that uniform, Ralph Garr. All right, how about that? Well, here's another Brewer pitcher, and this guy, Colin Ray, and that name rings a bell to me. He had a real, I think he's a promising pitcher. So keep an eye on this guy. It seems like it's the Brewers episode today. A lot of Brewers stuff on our show this today. Third baseman for the Texas Rangers, Josh Smith. Nice card, action card there. Oh, this is a Cub. They have a tribute to each team. They call it a moment in time. Lean on Me. Suzuki aids Shota's move, and it's them on the mound or something. I'm not quite sure what's going on right there, but anyway, Cub action right there. Very nice.
Awesome.
Oh, this is a rookie card, his rookie debut card, first baseman, Baltimore Orioles. And I tell you what, this kid looks like he's got a strong future. Colton Cowser.
Oh yeah, yeah. I thought
Very
he's
nice.
the rookie of the year.
I tell you what, this could be the Orioles' year, man. They got a powerhouse team together. Need a little pitching. Pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, Chris Martin. Don't know much about that guy right there.
Then you played
action picture.
Look and see if he played with the Cubs.
Let's look real close here. Yes, he did. He was a Cubby. Very good. It looks like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
He was a Cubby. How about that? Very good, Vince. All right. This kid, I know about him. I couldn't tell you a lot about him, but AJ Smith Sawyer. He's one of the Braves' young up-and-coming pitchers. That's a better one of them right there. Braves always seem to develop some pitching. That's always a tough team.
I've seen him pitch yet. I've heard of him, but I don't think I've seen him pitch yet. So
he must have just had a cup of tea. He doesn't even have statistics on the back. Just he's a prospect, and I guess he came up and had a cup of coffee with the team. The Marlins have 2 pitchers here, just like the White Sox had a card. It's Ramirez and Peretta, and it's 2 of the Marlins. And I'll be honest with you, if there's 26 guys on the roster, I might know 3 of the Marlins. They are always getting rid of all their players, man. I can't.
I know 2.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up with those guys.
Only 1 now because Berger got traded.
Yeah, and Arise they traded away.
I know Luzardo.
Yeah, there's one right there.
Still on there.
Andy Alcantara. He's hurt. He was hurt, but he's on that team. I think as of this moment, I think he's still on that team. Milwaukee Brewer again. Hey, Brewer episode. Elvis Pergario. I believe he was in the bullpen this year, and he throws very hard. I remember that. But a player
he's
there.
The king.
He's the king, baby.
Rock and roll.
All right, 3 cards left. A Reds pitcher, Nick Martinez. I couldn't tell you anything about Nick. You know that name?
Yeah. Who'd he sign with? No, he re-signed with the Reds. He had a good season, re-signed with the Reds. Yeah.
I think the Reds are going to be maybe second place in the division. I think it's going to be Cubs and Reds right there. I really do.
I'm not saying anything bad about the Brewers. I'm going to pick the Brewers to win the division.
Oh, that's true. You can't never count them guys out.
No, I
never count them out. Yankees, and I don't know why this card is in the update set, but it's Yankees Aaron Judge. You've heard of that kid? Got a bright future, I think.
I don't know.
And finally, star of the MLB, Austin Wells. And he was in the World Series this year. But what I remember about Austin Wells, we had a 3-game series against the Yankees, and he pretty much beat us 2 of the 3 games. He was the guy who got the big hit to win the game. So I'll never forget Austin Wells. So that's it for my set, Vince.
And that's it for mine. I love this show. I love the Milwaukee theme. Kim did a great job
Wonderful.
Talking about the Milwaukee experience, being in the 82 World Series. And of course, I'm just over the moon with what is going on with the Cubs. But I do temper it. I am a Cubs fan, and I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm waiting for like a measles outbreak or something. Take hold of the team. That's just the way we're built. So, uh, the at this day, the 17th of December, 2024, I'm a happy Cub fan.
You know what, Vince? We ought to go to a Cardinal Cub game this year. We ought to get tickets and us two go and report what we see, and we can root for our teams and just have a good day. I'd like to see Sonny Gray versus Justice Steele. If that happens, we got to go to that game.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. JJ, you have a good one. We will not be recording next week because of Christmas, and then we will do a New Year's episode. So JJ, have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm gonna cry. It's like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. So I have a friend, and we've been friends for like 25 years, and her boyfriend lived in California, and they would watch Hallmark movies together over the phone.
Oh,
It didn't last. She remarried. She's got a good husband and everything.
oh man. My favorite Christmas song, Darling Love, Merry Christmas, Baby, Please Come Home. I love that song. That's a good Christmas one.
I don't think
Now,
I've heard it.
you two did a version for Easter Seals, did a version of that song, and I kind of like theirs a little bit better, but it's a good song.
Oh, mine. I like the classic "Do You Hear What I Hear," which
Oh
is
yeah.
completely biblically inaccurate, but
Well,
I still like it.
yeah.
And so
It's a good one.
we watched Meet Me in St. Louis the other day. We've been watching a lot of Christmas. We watched Meet Me in St. Louis the other day, and Judy Garland singing "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." It's pretty cool.
Man, she was great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Too bad. And if we're going long, watch that movie and you see their house. It looks like the houses that are on like Lindell. I mean, I don't know if they filmed it in St. Louis, but boy, they had the houses that are still standing from the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century. Those houses that are still there, those big houses in Lindell and in that area. Yeah, I think that was they didn't film it in St. Louis. Boy, they really captured it.
I'll have to pay attention. I didn't realize that. Very good.
All right. Well, have a good Christmas, and I will
You too,
see
sir.
you in a couple weeks, okay?
Take care, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.